Hello, everyone, and welcome to Introduction to Sociology. My webcam on my laptop seems to have broken, so I'm trying this on my phone, and hopefully I'll be able to upload it to YouTube and then, give you this recording by the end of the day. So, there'll be another recording coming too. This is on the sociological imagination. I want to talk to you about your assignment and the readings here. So first, this is the reading from first chapter in Understanding Society. If you haven't gotten your book yet, I sent you like another version of it so you can read that and to do this assignment. So this is a very classic piece. Okay, this is C. Wright Mills' classic piece. This is like the start of every sociology class. Okay, usually in my in-class, my face-to-face classes, we do this a lot of group work on this, but I'm just going to tell you what to cover here. So I'm going to read you the first paragraph. Now, when he says men, he doesn't mean men as in males. He means men as in humanity. It's sexist language, but that's what he is. That's a man of his time, of his times, as Margaret Anderson said at the beginning here. But I'm going to read you this paragraph. Nowadays, men often feel that their private lives are a series of traps. They sense that within their everyday worlds they cannot overcome their troubles, and in this feeling they are often quite correct. What ordinary men or people are directly aware of and what they try to do are bounded by the private orbits of job, family, neighborhood. In other milieux, they move vicariously and remain spectators. And the more aware they become, however vaguely, of ambitions and of threats which transcend their immediate locales, the more trapped they seem to feel. Private lives are a series of traps. A lot of people do feel this way, that their private lives are a series of traps. And I think the reason why they feel this way, and what Mills is saying, is that they are so bounded up by their, as he says, bounded up by the very close interconnections. They don't see the wider social structure that's keeping them in the place that they're at. Okay, so they don't see the social and historical forces that shaped their world. Okay, their milieu, their social context. Okay, so Mills is talking about the development of the sociological imagination, which he says on page 3 in this book here. The sociological imagination enables us to grasp history and biography and the relations between the two within society. That is its task and its promise. Okay, this is one of the very amazing things. History made you. History made me too. Karl Marx basically said that we make history, but we don't make it under conditions of our own making. And so what that means is that, yes, we are constantly making history, but whatever circumstances that we're in is because of certain historical happenings, and if history comes out different, then our lives are different. One of my favorite examples is, what if Mexico wins the Mexican-American War? Well, who gets all that gold? Where are you living? My family's probably not here, to be honest, not in California. Maybe I don't exist, okay? History made you, okay? And we make history, and history makes us. It's this kind of dialectical thing, and it's kind of cool, okay? So this is a very important point here. So where we're at is that when we look at our troubles, we tend to look at our lives, we tend to see them as just our personal, that they're there because like maybe personal failings or somebody did something to us, but there are often wider social and historical forces that do that. And I'll get to this in a bit. Mills goes on to say, um, no social study that does not come back to the problems of biography, of history, and of their intersections within a society has completed its intellectual journey. Whatever the specific problems of the classic social analysts, however limited or however broad the features of social reality they have examined, those who have been imaginatively aware of the promise of their work have consistently asked three sorts of questions. 1. What is the structure of this particular society as a whole? What are its essential components, and how are they related to one another? How does it differ from other varieties of social order? Within it, what is the meaning of any particular feature for its continuance and for its change? You see, you can't just throw a bunch of people together and call it a society. It has to be organized, okay? Human societies are organized, okay? That's what we mean by structure. How is this, how is this group of people, how do they organize themselves? The building blocks of a social structure are statuses, okay? People are given a position in a society and then roles, expectations in that. So that's the building blocks of a social structure. And it creates things like social institution, social class, social hierarchies, and we'll get to that in a bit. We think about its relationship between its different parts. Well, one example of this could be, what's the relationship, say, between government and religion? And in the United States, it's separation. Even though the United States is culturally influenced by Christianity, for example, the religious leaders are not the political leaders in American society. If you look at other societies, you may find that the religious leaders are the political leaders. So it's that kind of like, the organization of society has to do with like the structure, who's at top, who's at the bottom, what are the different social institutions, what are the different kinds of social forces and things that are like, what's more dominant than others, what is also like, how are things like built, okay? So I think of social structure like like basically, much like a house, but it's like, you can't, you can't build a house from one end to the next. You have to organize, you have to organize it before you build it, it has to have an organization to it. So that's social structure. That's what we're talking about. Structure is organization. Okay. Second question, where does the society stand in human history? What are the mechanics by which it is changing? What is its place and its meaning for the development of humanity as a whole? How does any particular feature we are examining affect, and how is it affected by the historical period in which it moves? And this period, what are its essential features? How does it differ from other periods? What are its characteristic ways of history making? I think the most important part of that question is, what are the mechanics by which it is changing? How do societies change? How does history happen? Okay. Generally economic, but not always. Okay. I'll get to Marx. I'm going to talk a lot about Karl Marx in this class, but he was an economic reductionist. He thought that basically what was at the the physical level drove the change for everything. He is usually right. Usually that's true. Is that what is at the physical level, what is at the economic level, basically is the engine of ideas and things, but not always. Okay, so with economic changes, with economic development, societies change. I remember a time before the internet, for example. Remember it quite well. Nowadays, I don't think any of us can get by without the internet. We've become so dependent on it. So life would be very challenging if we didn't have one. It would be you'd have to wait in line to register for classes rather than doing it online, except for when it doesn't work. Okay. Um, but sometimes societies change with political movements, with social movements. Okay, the civil rights movement, for example, people sometimes get together and they say, "Hey, we don't like these conditions. Let's change them." Especially, certain oppressive conditions. Sometimes societies change during crises, because of crises like 9/11, for example, in moments of crises. So but it's generally economic. Okay, generally that's the economy is huge. Okay, then what varieties of men and women? Lost my place. What varieties of men and women now prevail in this society and in this period? And what varieties are coming to prevail? In what ways are they selected and formed, liberated and repressed, made sensitive and blunted? What kinds of human nature are revealed in the conduct and character we observe in this society in this period? And what is the meaning for human nature of each and every feature of the society we are examining? Well, I think that's the most important thing there is what varieties of men and women prevail and who is coming to prevail. So different people have different amounts of power, prestige, wealth, etc. There are some people who can get what they want generally and some people who can't. Okay. In the United States, the people with the power are generally rich white men. Okay. Those are the ones with the most power. Okay. Those are the ones that prevail. Other groups have made progress into the top positions, but it's generally rich white men. Okay. In order to vote, you had to be a white male property owner back in the day. That's changed, but still it's the rich white men, the white male property owners that are in power today. So Mills also then goes on to talk about troubles and issues. Okay, troubles. Let's see if I can just read this to you somewhere. If it's okay. Troubles occur within the character of the individual and within a range of his immediate relations with others. They have to do with his self and with those limited areas of social life of which he is directly and personally aware. Okay? So, I sprained my ankle in a race, that's a trouble. Okay? Issues have to do with matters that transcend these local environments of the individual and the range of his inner life. They have to do with the organization of many such milieu into the institutions of an historical society as a whole, with the ways in which various milieu overlap and interpenetrate to form the larger structure of social and historical life. So issues are small to the confines of the individual. Issues are bigger. Issues are related to the whole structure and history of the society. Okay, he gives several examples, and I think the best example is unemployment, because when somebody is unemployed, they experience it as a private trouble. They go out, look for a job. They may have some self-esteem issues if they have a hard time getting a job. But in American society, we have to have some unemployment. There are not enough jobs to go around for everybody who wants one. If you think about it, it makes sense, because otherwise it would be very difficult for your boss to fire you. Okay? So then other examples he has: divorce and war and the metropolis and things like that. They have this kind of there's kind of this relationship there between how the individual experience it as thinking it's a trouble, but they are really wider issues that affect many people. Okay, so to get into this deeper, I want you to do a couple of things here. One, well, First of all, let's just go through your sociological imagination assignment, okay? According to C. Wright Mills, the sociological imagination enables us to grasp history and biography and the relations between the two within society. That is its task and its promise. So, I'd like you to write a 5 to 6 page paper that shows how your biography, or the story of your life, was shaped by social and historical forces, the story of society, and the relationship between your private troubles and your public issues. Okay, so first page and a half. Give me an overview of your life. It says so in the assignment sheet. Then the last 3 to 4 pages should show the relationship between your biography and histories. Show how social factors shaped your biography. So, do some internet research and come up with so think about what are the intimate details of your life that were shaped by broader social and historical forces. Think about the troubles you've had, and think about maybe you're not the only one who's had these troubles, okay? Maybe you're not the only one. And if you're not the only one, that's kind of telling that it's related to something about the organization of society. Organization of society shaped by history, exactly, shaped by history, to which some people have the power and some people do not. They're all kind of connected there. So, if you've had a trouble-free life, that's still related to the structure of society. Talk about, say, the dot-com boom that made your family rich and trouble-free. Okay, so here's some things you might want to talk about. It's not an exhaustive list. One is the economy. The economy shapes everything, as I said. Okay, people go to where the work is. Okay, so if you may want to write about all sorts of the development of economic conditions where you live. A lot of students write about the rise of the Silicon Valley because it shaped many of your lives, even if your family did not work in tech. Okay, maybe your family worked for people who worked in tech, for example, and that was part of it too. Okay, immigration. Generally, people just don't pack up and leave, at least permanently, just for for kicks. Usually there are some push factors, either some economic or political situations that they're trying to escape, and some pull factors. Why is the U.S. so appealing? Okay, why not go somewhere else? Think about what's happening now in Central America and why a bunch of people from Guatemala want to get here. Okay, what are the push factors and what are the pull factors? Okay, think about poverty as a public issue. It's not just a private trouble. You might want to talk about something like the feminization of poverty. If you're raised in poverty, let's say by a single mom, well, there is a higher likelihood that single moms will live in poverty, and there's a lot of reasons for that. You could look up the feminization of poverty and relate it to that. For things like religion, I want more not so much about how religious you are, about your personal religious or your connections with God and things like that, but I want more about the structure of religion. How did your religion come to where you were at, for example? How did the structure of religion shape your life? Okay. Terrorism and war I'll take on together, kind of thing. So, did you go to Afghanistan or Iraq? Do you have friends that did? Did they come back? Did they come back but damaged? Okay. Did with terrorism, because of 9/11, are you treated different in airports than others? Okay. These kinds of things. What kind of prejudice and things like that are you experiencing? Education. You can talk about the structure of education in society. Why are you at the educational institution that you are at? Many of you are other places other than Foothill. You're just taking a class or two at Foothill, but why aren't you at Harvard or Yale? Why are you where you are at? Okay, you might want to look up something called California's Master Plan for Education as well. You could do that. Okay. Um, Gender relations, sexual attitudes, social movements, things like that. I'm talking about talking generally about social movements related to race, class, race, gender, sexuality, etc. Um, Women are living different lives than their mothers and grandmothers did. Okay. Some of it is because of changes in the economy. Some of it is because of the feminist movement. You can get into that. LGBTQ youth are living different lives than LGBTQ youth of my generation, and even different than my father's generation, for example. Okay. Um, the civil rights movement was the most successful social movement in ever, and some say it's still going on, um, especially if you consider Black Lives Matter and things. But other racial minority groups have also benefited from the civil rights movement. You can look at there's all sorts of ways you can go. What I should say more specifically is that the civil rights movement was not just specifically for African Americans, but it also helped Latinos and Asians too. Look into that. Um, so you might look into media. A lot of times people write about body image and how the media shapes their body image and their problems and maybe some kind of eating disorder leading to health problems, but also get into the historical expansion of the media. It's one thing if it's in a pamphlet in the 1800s. It's another thing if messages in the media are just all over the place and ubiquitous and you can't escape these messages. Okay? With medicine and healthcare, one of the best papers I ever saw was a young woman who had open heart surgery on the day she was born, and she talked about it's because she was born with a defect. She gave me a history lesson on the discovery of the defect, the discovery of the surgical techniques to fix it, and how her family had health insurance to pay for it. Okay. Um, and it was great. It was like one of the best papers I ever read, but it's just one event. But all sorts of other kind of social things came together for her to receive treatment. Disease. Sometimes disease is kind of hard because it's like, say you lost someone close to you through cancer or something. It's not always something you can find as something social. Yet there are other kinds of diseases that have big social components. HIV/AIDS is one of the biggest examples there. But look for the social components of these things. Many times it's related to infectious diseases, and other kinds of things are related to population. Density and things like that. Crime. You can talk about crime as a public issue, and give me some statistics on crime. Being a crime victim. You could talk about maybe if you've been involved with crime, what are some social and historical forces that led to this? Some people talk about being in a gang, and so why are there gangs? And why are there gangs located in certain areas and not other areas? There are some social reasons for this. So, get to 3 topics. It's worth 20% of your grade. It's due in Canvas on Wednesday, July 17th at 11:59 p.m. So you've got 2 weeks and 2 days to do this. If you're dissatisfied with your grade, you can rewrite this as many times as you want up until the last day of the quarter, which is August 9th at 11:59. But late papers lose the rewrite option and will be held to a higher standard. Email me or make an appointment if you have any questions. Okay? So that's for the sociological imagination. Next video is going to be on the sociological perspectives. Okay. Thank you. And oh, one more thing. Make sure you understand this for the video you're going to be watching too. The 56 Up, okay, is the name of the video. So make sure you do that. Make sure you have a clear understanding of biography and history, private troubles and public issues, because your challenge is going to be applying it to one of the people profiled in 56 Up. Okay. Okay. I'll talk to you later. Bye.